the internet, and welcome back to Bearded Dragon Diaries. It has been a little bit since I have posted. You may have noticed that I haven't posted in a while. And basically what happened was I did a whole bunch of like little things, and none of them really felt worthy of like a whole video. So we're going to go over some of the things that I have learned since this last video, and then I'm going to show you what I've been working on, which is right over there. And then I'm going to share a really exciting announcement with you. So, the first thing I'm going to mention is that I ended up, I told you that I found the Revelation Reptiles place that was like local to me. It's like 20 minutes away. And I had looked for other reptile places. I found one that's in Roanoke, which is the city that's closest to me. And there was a place, or a reptile store, well, a pet store up there called Exotics and Aquatics, and they do like a whole bunch of different stuff. So they have like birds and fish, but they also have reptiles, and they had a large selection of things. Like Revelation Reptiles was kind of like small and specified. And then obviously Exotics and Aquatics was just bigger. There was more stuff there. They also had like feeder rodents. So I found that interesting just because I'd never really seen that before. I guess because I've never really gone looking for it. But like, you know, for people who have snakes and like need that, you know, there's apparently a place around that I could go and get those. So, not that I'm planning on getting a snake anytime soon, but anyway, so I did that, and then I went and visited family up in Baltimore, and I actually looked at a couple of, I looked for reptile places up there. I kind of wanted to see what was out there, right? Like, this is part of my process, is that I just go and gather as much information as I can, and then kind of distill what I figured out, or what I learned, or what I observed, you know, from all the different places, and then I kind of start narrowing in my search. So, I went to two places up there. Was it only two? Yeah, I think we went to two places up there. One ended up being, it was a bigger store. It was kind of like a Petco or a PetSmart. Like, it had that same feel, but it was not called one of those things. So that was kind of interesting. But it had that like mass market appeal feel to it, but it wasn't labeled as a PetSmart or a Petco. And there was some nice stuff there. They did have a couple of bearded dragons. They were priced basically like they would be at PetSmart or Petco. But I also saw a beautiful betta fish there. If I didn't already own a betta fish, I totally would have picked up that betta fish. But anyway, and then I went to a place that actually was a reptile store, and now while I'm taping this video, I don't remember what it, was named, but I took a picture of myself outside, so I'm going to put that picture here. That one was really, really cool. They had a lot of, like, I've been watching reptile videos and all that kind of stuff, and they had a lot of the reptiles that I have seen, like, in the store. And so it was really kind of cool to see those. They also had a Vietnamese Blue Beauty. They had some of the false chameleons. And they also had some silky bearded dragons, which is a thing that I've heard some conflicting things about silkies, because it's like, you've got your bearded dragon, and they've got like the spines on them. And so that's like normal, how you find them in the wild. They have the spines because like that helps them. Then there's apparently the leatherback, where the scales on their back, like they don't have any scales on their back. So I guess it's kind of like a scaleless morph on a snake. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, it's supposed to be smooth. And then they still have the spines around their sides and on their heads, and I think under the chin too. But then if you breed the leatherbacks together, I think it's is it a dominant gene? Something like that. If you breed a leatherback with a normal, you'll get leatherbacks. I'm not exactly positive on that. Anyway, But if you breed two leatherbacks together, you get what is called a silky. And silky is apparently like completely scaleless, and their skin is actually much more, basically what I've read is that it's just a really, really sensitive skin. So like, they need higher humidity than normal bearded dragons. They need their light to not be as hot. I think they need more hydration because they dehydrate quicker. Their skin like rips very easily. Like, apparently breeding them is considered cruel because of the way bearded dragons breed. They actually, some breeding like habits of animals are kind of rough. And so like the male bearded dragon like grabs the female and like basically pins her into submission until she's like, okay, you can, you know, breed with me. And then, and apparently silkies can get like really, really ripped up during this. And so a lot of breeders are like, they will not produce silkies at all because it's inhumane. And a lot of people like will get a silky bearded dragon and not know how to take care of it, not know that it has specific care requirements. And then other people are like, well, if you just know how to take care of them, then it's fine. And it's like this thing. But anyway, they had two silkies there, and that was when I really looked into it, because all I had heard before that was, you don't want to create silkies. And then they had some for sale, and I was like, what, you know, what's going on here? And so I kind of found out a little bit about that. But anyway, that was a cool experience just to actually see, like, it was kind of like Revelation Reptiles had a lot of interesting reptiles, but they, I hadn't watched as many videos when I had gone there, so I probably didn't recognize the reptiles as much as I could have. But when I went to this other store, I had seen a whole bunch more, and so I kind of recognized all that. That was kind of fun. And then we came back from that trip, and then the next weekend I had ordered tickets to go to Repticon down in Winston-Salem, which is about 2 hours away from me. My husband went with me. We drove down there, and I just wanted to kind of go and see what a reptile convention was like, right? It wasn't super big. I was actually I've been going to anime conventions for much of my life. Up until COVID, we went basically every year. And so I'm used to going to Otakon, which is one of the larger anime conventions, and their dealer's room is like absolutely huge. Like, I mean, you're in there for like 2 or 3 hours, like walking through all of the everything. And so I went into Repticon, and it was this small little thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so tiny. But then once I actually got in there and started seeing the snakes and the reptiles and like all the different things that were available, it actually was really, really cool. And I saw some bearded dragons there. Some of them, I don't know, some of them seemed really, really young, because like I've heard you don't want to sell them under a certain size, and some of them looked like hatchlings. Now, I'm not an expert. I've never actually seen a bearded dragon, like I've never actually raised up a bearded dragon or seen it grow or any of this kind of stuff. So I could have been complete, but a lot of the places there looked like they had like, I mean, they were super tiny, right? And then they had some older ones too, but then there was a whole bunch of snakes there, mostly boas, I think, boa constrictors or ball pythons. No, they were ball pythons. I still get those too. Anyway, lots of those. It was really cool to see. Everybody was very friendly. Like, you know, everybody was like, you know, if you need anything, just, you know, ask and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. So and they had insects, they had frogs, there was even one guy selling plants. I saw from across the room, I actually have a lot of houseplants. I saw from across the room a varicosum, which is a somewhat expensive plant. And I walked over and I was like, how much is this plant? And he was like, oh, this price. I was like, oh, okay, that's an absolutely reasonable price for this plant. But I was like, if he doesn't know what he has, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. But, you know, but anyway, that was kind of cool because he had some really pretty begonias, and I like those too. But anyway, so I took some video from outside the Repticon. I didn't want to video inside because I'm kind of shy. And you know, I didn't want to video people's stands without asking them, but then I was too shy to ask. So basically, I took this video outside. Today, I'm going to my first reptile expo. I found one that was not too far away, and I decided to go and just see what was going to be there. And so I'm really excited to go inside and see what kind of reptiles they have, if they have any bearded dragons or whatever. So I'm probably not going to do any filming inside, just because a lot of vendors don't really like you to do that, but I'll let you know how it goes. And then when I was leaving, I took just one picture of the whole thing. So I'll put that here. But anyway, that was a really cool experience, because it was like I saw all this stuff online, and it was kind of like, it was kind of not real to a certain extent, because, like, you know, you see all these pictures of all these people who have all these snakes, or all these bearded dragons, or all these, you know, frogs or lizards or whatever, you know, all this different stuff. And like actually seeing the reptile convention and seeing all the people there and selling their wares and interacting and buying and like being enthusiastic about this was actually really, really cool. And I mean, it was the con experience. Like I said, I've been going to anime conventions. I went to anime conventions for about 15 years before COVID. No, it was closer to 20. My first anime convention was in 2001. And COVID hit in 19, so it was just over 15 years that I had been going to anime conventions, and just, I'm very comfortable in that space. And so I went to that reptile convention, and it was like, you know, I didn't necessarily feel like I was a part of it yet, because I didn't have a reptile and all that kind of stuff, but it was the same feel, and I got the same like experience from being there, just being around people who love a thing and they all come together and like love that thing. So anyway, that was a really exciting experience, and you know, the next time I go to a reptile convention, I might feel brave enough to actually be like, hey, can I take some video, you know, type of thing. But anyway, that was the reason why I didn't post any of these updates, because stuff happened, but there wasn't really like enough to be like, you know, whatever. Anyway, so all of that happened. That was wonderful. So all that happened, and one of the things that I finally decided to do was buy the circular saw that I've been kind of wanting for... I'm definitely interested in just doing general woodworking, building type stuff. And because I don't have like a garage or anything like that, I was like, I can't really get that into woodworking because I don't have anywhere to do it. You know, like most people have like a shed out back or their garage where they go and they do their woodworking, and I don't have any of that in my house. But anyway, I went ahead and bought a circular saw. I made a kind of simple cat tree for my cats, because I wanted to like do something that I wasn't going to be like crushed if it didn't turn out well, you know, because this was my first time using, and it ended up being okay. It's definitely not beautiful, but it ended up being okay. It's really good for a first project, I'm sure. And, but after that, I had enough confidence to be like, okay, now I'm going to build my bearded dragon cage. I think I mentioned this in previous videos where I was like, you know, I've seen some videos on, you know, how you can build a bearded dragon cage out of melamine, and it's not that expensive and all that kind of stuff. And so I had been planning to do that for a while. And now that I had the circular saw, I was like, okay, I can make any cuts that I need to in order to help put this together. And so I finally went out and got the melamine, and I started putting that together. So I'm going to show you guys that project, which is not completed, but like there is something to look at. I'm going to show you guys this project. This is not like a how-to. I'll you know, share with you some of the stuff that I've done, but like there are plenty of videos out there where people like go through and they're like, these are the ingredients, or these are the tools you need, these are the bits you need, this is how you do it, and they put it all together and blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing one of those videos because I'm not doing one of those videos. So I'm just going to show you guys what I have, and tell you a couple things about it. And then, like I said, in a little bit after I've done this, I will let you in on that very exciting announcement that I have. Okay, so first off, please ignore all the stuff in the background. This is just what my basement looks like. But anyway, this is the cage, or at least the 4 sides of the cage that I'm building out of melamine. I have these cool little angle brackets that actually hold everything square, which is really cool for holding it all together. This actually ended up, I guess, going that close. You guys can't even see anything. It just all turned away. This cage ended up being a lot bigger than I thought it was going to. The how-to that I looked at was like, if you get a specific size of melamine, and my local store did not have that specific size of melamine. They had one that was an inch shorter on both sides. And so what happened was I was like, okay, I'm going to get that piece cut, and then I'll get an extra piece to make up for the bit that won't fit in that one cut. And so what ended up happening, that instead of it being, what was it? It was going to be, so this is the piece of paper that I wrote the original instructions on. It was supposed to be 97 by 49 piece, and I got a 48 by 96 piece because that's what they had at the store. But anyway, it was supposed to be 46 long and 24 deep, and then like 18 and a quarter, like these pieces were supposed to be 18 and a quarter tall, and then they sit on the bottom. So it's a little taller than that. But what I ended up doing was, this bottom piece is exactly 4 feet wide because that's how big the piece of melamine was. And then these side pieces are 24 tall. And then the back piece is obviously cut to go inside of all that. But what ended up happening, and then I have the top piece, which is obviously the same size as the bottom piece. And then what I ended up doing was buying this. It's like made to be just a shelf, but it's the same thickness, the 3/4. And then I'm going to cut the pieces in the front. And so there's going to be, you know, a piece across here, and then a piece across the top attached to the roof. And then there's going to be sliding glass in the front. Because I had bought plexiglass, and then on a whim, I called my local glass cutting place that is up in Roanoke, and asked, I was like, if I get like this size glass and like this thick and blah, 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 how much is that going to cost? And they quoted me $20 a piece. And I was like, well, I paid $17 for the plexiglass. And, you know, plexiglass can get scratched, and it can, you know, all this kind of stuff. I was like, I think I'm going to return the plexiglass, and I'm just going to go ahead and order the glass. So I'm probably going to be doing that before too long. But anyway, this guy, none of this is screwed together yet because I was making sure I was happy with this. The really funny thing that I find, however, is that if you remember my first video when I was like, why am I getting a bearded dragon? Part of it was snakes need too big of a cage, and then this thing ended up being like, I mean, this is absolutely huge. I had to go through my living room and be like, okay, what am I going to move in order to fit this into my space? Because it's like, I mean, it's huge. Like, it's absolutely humongous. But based on, because I was researching the UVB light, and they were like, the one that I ended up getting, they were like, you want the dragon to be 16 inches away from the light. And I was like, okay, well, that means, you know, I'll be able to put it up at the top here. And then, you know, I'll have plenty of space to mess with down there, and then it won't be too close and all this kind of, I think it's going to end up working out good. But it's just a whole bunch of, it's just huge. Like, I put it together the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so large. It really is. And it's like, but my bearded dragon should be happy because people are always saying you want like a 4 foot by 2 foot, like, if you really want to take care of them well, you want something like that big. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so that was the cage that I've been working on. And I'm planning on getting it screwed together, and I have to silicone the cracks in between because you don't want water to get, like the white part of the melamine is actually waterproof. at least to a certain extent. And in a bearded dragon cage where you basically want it to be really dry, it's not like, it's not a problem. Like, but you want to put the silicone on the edges, because if it gets into the particle board part of it, like any water will just like warp the crap out of it. So I'm going to screw that together. I'm going to put the silicone on it. I have my UVB light coming. I've got to order the glass. Oh, and I also started gathering some decorations for going in there. I recently was also watching a couple of videos on how you can just go out into your environment, like out into nature, and collect like logs and all that kind of stuff, and what to do with them in order to make them safe to put into your bearded dragon's cage. I already picked up a really nice rock, and I'll probably end up having like this is what the cage looks like at the end, and so that's when you'll get to see all the little pieces I've collected. But I already found a nice rock that's really nice and flat on the top. And I want to get it. I feel like it'd be like the perfect basking rock, because it just would be really, really nice. I don't know. We'll end up seeing if it. But I've got a couple. I've got a bunch of things. Oh, I've also got some tile for the bottom. I found some nice textured tile. Unfortunately, that's going to need to be cut by a tile saw. I don't have one of those. I think tile you have to do wet. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it that much, but that's like next step. Like, I'm not worried about that quite yet, because like I told my husband, worst comes to worst, I can put down paper towels because paper towels are nice and easy. It's all good. But speaking of that, so I've been watching a couple places, or a couple bearded dragon places online, and whenever I see them, if they mention a store or a place that they buy bearded dragons from, I go and I check out those people. I check out the website or whatever, and one of them actually was like, oh yeah, I got this from this guy. I don't remember the name of him off the top of my head, but they were like, I got it from this guy, and it was on a website called Morph Market. And I went and looked at his dragons, and I wasn't really interested. He did a lot of the Wiblets and the Zeros, which I understand is like kind of the hotness right now, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't want one, but I don't want that to be my first dragon, because I feel like while they're pretty, it's not a great example of what a bearded dragon is, because it doesn't have the pattern or the color. And like, anyway, I wasn't interested in that guy's stuff, but this is a website kind of where it's kind of like an eBay, maybe, you know, where it's like a site, but then it's a whole bunch of different sellers. And so I actually went to the main page of that, and they had all different types of reptiles, obviously bearded dragons, but they also had Western hognoses, they have boa constrictors, they have ball pythons, they have invertebrates, like they have all this stuff. Anyway, I started looking through the bearded dragons because I was just like, oh, this is cool. Let's, you know, see what's out there. And so there were, in my research of all the stuff that I have kind of all the bearded dragons that I've been looking at, I felt like I really wanted a red one, and that's kind of what I went in looking for. And I also wanted one with pattern, because I just like the pattern. But then I found out that there are bearded dragons that have, they call them blue bars, but it's basically blue scales on the sides of their body. They can be in different patterns, obviously, and blue is like my favorite color. And I also think it's like super awesome that like the color blue could be on a reptile, and it's very clearly blue. It's not like you look at like lavender hog noses, and it's like, oh, it's got kind of a purplish shade, but it's like not like purple, you know, like this is like blue in most cases. And I was like, okay, I really want one. I want one with blue bars on it, because blue is my favorite color, and I think it's really unique. And so I've been looking, and most of blue bars for most of the places that I went to look kind of seemed to be like an afterthought. Like they were going for whatever color or morph or whatever that they were doing, and then some of them had blue bars on them. But when I was on the morph market, I was like, oh, there's a lot more on here. There was just more in general than I had seen before, because there's a bunch of people on there. And I was going through and I found 2 different bearded dragons that had really, really nice blue bars on them and were kind of a darker orange. I've kind of been falling in love with the orange color a little bit more, like more than the red, and definitely I don't like the yellow all that much, but yeah. I wanted a nice colored one, but I didn't want to be like paying through the nose for it. So basically, when reptile breeders breed reptiles, there are certain ones that they will hold back from the clutches. That means they keep them from themselves, they raise them up a little bit and see if the patterns or the markings that they saw when the reptile was young continue to be impressive, right? Because most of reptile breeding is for the color. As long as they don't have like a problem physically or whatever like that, they're basically breeding for color. And sometimes temperament. That's always nice too, but mostly color. And so this bearded dragon had been a holdback. It was one that they found very, very impressive, but then ended up having more clutches, and so they put her up for sale. And that was the other thing. It was a female. I kind of myself was like, oh, I really should get a male, because then you don't have to worry about eggs and all that kind of, like, because they'll lay eggs even if they don't have a male. So you have to worry about egg binding and this, that, and the other thing. And but I just saw her, and she was so beautiful. She's like a nice light orange, but very obviously orange, with these gorgeous blue bars on her. And I hadn't been looking. I've been looking like for a really long time now, but I didn't really want to pull the trigger on getting a bearded dragon because I was taking a little bit of a hiatus, a little vacation, and I didn't want to. It would be irresponsible to buy a bearded dragon and then go away and then be like, I don't know how to take care of this animal, but here, pet sitter, why don't you take care of this animal? Like so I was like, I'm going to wait until after I get back from that. And I saw her, and I saw the price, and she had literally been listed the night before. Like, it had been listed like fairly late the night before, and then it was like the morning of the next day, and I was like, I don't know how, like, I have no idea how fast bearded dragons sell off of this website, but with the price that I had seen for other bearded dragons that had these big blue bars, because I did find some that actually breed for those, which, I think is really cool. I was like, I don't think she's going to stay around for very long. And so I emailed the breeder and I said, look, I'm going on vacation. I wouldn't be able to take hold of this bearded dragon, but if you are willing to hold her for me, I'm very interested in having her. And the breeder was like, oh no, that's great. That's okay. I can definitely hold it for you. I'm more excited that she goes to a good home. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. This is how long I'm going to be gone. This is like, and we went back and forth on when she would actually ship the dragon to me and all this kind of stuff. And it just ended up working out perfectly. And when I showed my husband, he was like, okay, I'm okay with that price, because he's been a little about me getting a bearded dragon. He's definitely not excited, but he's not like, or anything like that, right? Like, he's just kind of like being a supporting husband, which is wonderful. But he's kind of picky about money sometimes, and he was like, oh, okay, that's a good price, because I've been talking to him about this, and I'm like, this is what they cost in pet stores, but you don't get any colors, and you don't have a good breeder. And then, so he kind of knew the price, what prices were good and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I went ahead and purchased the dragon from this lady. And she's gonna, we've talked about like when she's gonna ship, which means that now I have a deadline. now I have a deadline because I actually have the dragon coming. So I'm not needing to rush, because like I said, you know, I've got time. I've definitely got time, but it does mean that I actually have to just kind of finish this. So I like went out and started buying all the pieces that I hadn't yet bought and all that kind of stuff. And that's why this is all getting together and all that kind of thing. And I'm just kind of really excited that I'm going to be getting a bearded dragon, and she's just gorgeous. And I have this thing sometimes where like, I'll make snap decisions like that. I mean, like, it obviously wasn't a snap decision because, like, I've been researching bearded dragons. So it's not like I just went out and got a bearded dragon without having any information. But like, I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, I need this particular dragon. And so then I was like, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. And so I went through the whole morph market again. And I was like, let me look for another one that I might possibly want. And they were all at least $100 to $200 more than she cost, for the color and the blue bars and the pattern that I wanted, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I actually really got a good deal on this. You know, assuming that this lady is actually a legitimate breeder and all that kind of stuff. But like, I went to her Instagram, I went to her Facebook page. She posts regularly. She's got a whole bunch of followers. So like, you know, it seems on the up and up. I mean, so, I'm really, really excited. I went to the website, like all the stuff, like I checked all that out, obviously, before I purchased the dragon, but it ended up being really, really cool. And so here is a picture of her. And Rotan, I keep wanting to say rotten, and it's like horrible because that's her last name, is Rotan, Reptiles. And like, I'm just really, really happy with that. But anyway, that's the bearded dragon that I'm going to be getting. I don't know exactly what I'm going to name her yet. But I've got some time, and maybe I might not even decide until after I've got her here and I've interacted with her for a bit. But if you guys have any ideas based on, you know, what she looks like or whatever, you can put them down in the comments. And I am happy to be like, oh wow, that name's really cool, you know? So, but anyway, that is the very exciting announcement. Obviously, there was no fanfare. I was just like, this is it. I have to tell people. But yeah, so I'm going to be finishing up the cage. I'll probably do another video when that's all together or mostly together. And definitely an unboxing video when my new dragon ends up coming. And then videos on the first. There'll be a whole bunch of stuff to do videos on at that point because like I have to, you know, I've done all my research. And so I'm doing everything based on all the research that I have done. And then I'm going to actually have the dragon. And then I'm going to have to like relearn everything for that particular dragon. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Oh, I guess I also should mention that my dubia roach colony is still going. My mealworm colony are still going. They're both doing fine. I actually ended up I got a packet of 5 male dubia roaches and 10 female dubia roaches, and 2 of those females ended up dying. So I was down to 8 to 5, which is not, they say you want far more females. So I ended up buying a pack of 10 female dubia roaches from a different place because then the genetics are all different. And put that, and one of those died, but it still means that I've got math. 8 plus 9 is 17. I have 17 females and 1 male, and 5 males. And one of the females must have been pregnant before she even came into the space because there's actually little baby dubia roaches in there. I think it was only 1 clutch and there haven't been any since then. So I've got some baby dubia roaches in order to be able to feed. I'll probably still end up needing to buy some dubia roaches, and buy some crickets and stuff to feed my dragon when she comes. But that was just another update of things that have happened but didn't seem worthy of their own update video. But anyway, so a lot of stuff is happening, and starting with the next video, things are going to probably start going a lot faster because I'm more than likely going to actually have the dragon. Assuming that everything goes smoothly, that the weather holds, and all that kind of stuff, I will very likely have my new dragon within a video or two of this one. So super, super excited about that. I really can't wait. I'm going to have to, but... so anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and like this video. You know, if you're just watching this off the cuff and you haven't seen any of my other videos, you know, go give them a check out, and if, you know, and go ahead and subscribe, and then that way when I do get my dragon in, you'll be able to see those videos and come in and, you know, share in my excitement with that. So thank you very much for spending some of your time with me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.